Hello and welcome to Candidates Night 2018, sponsored by the Close-Up Club. I will be your moderator for tonight's debate. My name is Jacob Serrano. We welcome candidates for the Lacey Township Committee. Joining us this evening are Mark Dykoff, Sean Judson, Ted Kanacki, and Tim McDonald. Thank you for being here tonight. Representatives from the Close-Up Club will be asking questions this evening. We welcome Trey Kennis, John Hamm, Michael Price, and Ryan Price. We will start tonight's event with opening statements. Candidates will give an opening statement and answer questions in a pre-selected random order that was set by WLTS students earlier this evening. You will have 3 minutes for your opening statement. Mr. Dykoff, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Close-Up Club for hosting this event. This is the perfect forum for the residents of Lacey to get to know the candidates and really see what we're all about and answer some good questions. I'm sure you'll have some good ones tonight. A little bit about myself. First of all, I've been a resident of Ocean County for 32 years. For 24 of those years, I've lived in Lacey. When I first moved down here, I moved a little bit south to Waretown, but I always had my heart set on living in Lacey because I really felt it was the jewel in Ocean County, and I had been through a lot of parts of Ocean County. Been married to my wife Tammy for 35 years, and I've got two beautiful daughters, Lindsay, who's a junior at Temple. I'm representing her tie, and Melissa, who's a manager of a local business. They're both graduates of Lacey Township High School. I previously served 4 terms on the Lacey Township Committee. Two of those, during those terms, I served as mayor for 2 years, and I also served as deputy mayor for 3 years. And I took a little hiatus, and people are saying, Mark, why do you want to get back into politics? And basically, the reason is, as many people might know, we have a freeholder candidate, or had a freeholder candidate, John Bartlett, who became ill and had to drop out of the race. So our very own Gary Quinn has been chosen to run as a freeholder for Ocean County. Well, the county's gain is our loss, unfortunately, and we will certainly miss Gary and his experience. And I felt that during, especially this time in Lacey Township's life, we need experience, and the biggest part of our need is someone who is familiar with the Oyster Creek Nuclear Generating Station. I served as liaison there for 12 years. I worked tirelessly when they had to go through the relicensing process. I've got experience with their budgets. I've got experience with civil service. During those 12 years, I've served as department head or liaison to the police department, the planning board, Board of Health, MUA. So these are all things that I bring to the table. I know Gary Quinn's shoes will be very difficult to fill, but I think with my experience, I can be a great benefit to Lacey Township and its residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dykoff. Ms. Judson, your opening statement, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hosting us. And good evening, Lacey Township. All right. I was born and raised in Pine Beach. I've lived there I've been an Ocean County resident for 61 years. I have lived here for 35 years. I raised my children here. They were both Lacey Township graduates. My daughter works for the same company as I do. I work for Jersey Central Power and Light. I've been an employee there for 35 years. I am a leader in my job. I run my own jobs. I direct men on what they have to do, their tasks for the day. I also volunteer. I am a member of the Elks, Lacey Elks. I volunteer for the Veterans Committee, and also I am an advisor to the youth, the Antlers. So I believe that I can represent the Lacey Township residents. I am interested in the taxes and what's going on with Oyster Creek, the closing of it. We don't seem to be getting any answers, and that's an eye-opener for me. And I believe that we've had a total Republican party here for 5 years, no outside voice. And I think it's time that we have different voices and different ideas come into this town. and different representation. I have good leadership skills, I have good people skills, and I just want to be here for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Judson. Mr. McDonald, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. I do want to thank the Close-Up Club for sponsoring this debate tonight. This is the purest form of democracy you're going to see, where candidates are going to stand or sit here and talk about the issues that are important to our kids, who are our future. I am currently the deputy mayor. I've been on the Township Committee for 3 years now. Prior to that, I served over 20 years on the Board of Adjustments. And if you had a shed or a pool or something like that that weren't happy with the way it was going to situate on your property, you came before my board. I've been involved with this township for a very long time, since I first moved down here. I'm married. I have two sons, and one's just got a phone call from him this evening as I was walking out the door, and he has one more test left, and then he will be a special agent for the Air Force. He is a graduate of Lacey Township. I have another son who is a mechanical engineer and also a graduate of Lacey Township. 2019 is going to be, without question, a very challenging year for Lacey Township, with the power plant closing, and we have we have a governor in this state that is really anti-business. And that will trickle down to this township. There is no question about that. We're starting to see it as right now. So what we need experienced leadership in this town to go through this maze of what's happening, what Trenton is doing, and things of that nature. Again, I want to thank the Close-Up Club, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Mr. Kanaki, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for hosting this Lacey Close-Up Club, and thank you for listening to us, and hope it's informative for you. My name is Ted Kanaki. I'm not originally from Lacey Township. I moved here 9 years ago. I'm originally from Washington, D.C. area. I moved to California, went to college, and that's where I met my wife, who is from Lacey Township. I've been married to her for 18 years. I have 4 kids who all attend Lacey Township high schools. 2 of them actually attend Lacey High School. What brought me to Lacey Township essentially was I was looking for a place to bring my family that was a safe place, a good place to raise your kids, and had great schools, and this ticked all the boxes essentially. We're close to the beach. That was another big factor that we liked. But most of all, it was the people of Lacey. You know, I really did enjoy talking with the people. I made a lot of friends in Lacey, and I do think that the people in Lacey are great people. They tell you like it is. They tell you when you're wrong, and but they are just genuinely good people, and that's what really drove me to living here. I'm a real estate attorney by profession, so I have my own law practice in Toms River, so mostly what I do is help people buy and sell houses. Part of my job essentially is understanding real estate. I was looking at my own home and just seeing that it seemed that the house did not go up in value at all since we purchased it in 2010, and I started to get concerned. So I started to consider running for office because I do think Lacey Township has a lot of challenges ahead of it. One of which is the power plant closing. Obviously, that's going to affect our township greatly. We need to find solutions to replace that tax revenue. So there's a couple different ways we could consider doing that. I think one of the best ways to do it is to improve Lacey, make it a better place, make it attractive for people to want to come and live. If we can do that with investing in our town, we can raise our property values, we can have more tax money, and we can do the things that we are currently doing, because we don't want to have to face budget cuts and get rid of some of the things that make this town great. There's many good factors in this town, beautiful lakes, beautiful parks, and we want to keep it that way. We want to invest in this township, make it a better place for all Lacey residents. So I hope you consider that when you go to vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kanaki. At this time, we'll be moving to the question and answer phase. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question and will be allowed 1 minute of extra or rebuttal time, up to 3 times during this portion of the debate. Trey Kennis will ask the first question.
Good evening, candidates. My name is Trey Kennis, and I'm going to ask, well, we all know that the Oyster Creek Nuclear Power Plant has been a part of the Lacey community for the last 50 years, and it is even featured the nuclear atom as a part of our township flag. I would like to ask, how do you feel about closing one of the single biggest private employers in Lacey Township? How will it affect the community in regards to employment and taxes, and how will you offset these issues?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dykoff?
Thank you very much. You're absolutely right, and it's pretty interesting. During the relicensing, and back from when I initially went on the committee to when they received their relicensing, we held many public forums in the township, in town hall, and it was interesting because I used to point out to the DEP, the NRC, and whoever was there that part of our town seal was the atomic symbol. As a matter of fact, I had testified before a Senate committee in Trenton, and I actually brought a flag, a Lacey flag, and I had 2 people hold it up to show that. So having said that, it is a sad part of what's happening in Lacey that it's closing down. It was originally relicensed for 20 years because their recirculation permit, water recirculation permit was denied. A deal was cut to shorten that to 10 years. So that's where we are today. What are we going to do to move forward? So let's understand the revenue that comes from Oyster Creek. It comes from 2 pools. Number 1, it comes from the energy tax. That's $11.2 million. We are guaranteed by state statute to receive that energy tax unless the statute is changed. And it should be noted that every municipality receives some of that energy tax. We just happen to get quite a bit because we have a nuclear power plant, and that's basically it's a franchise tax. It's to rent the facility. By statute, it can only go down to 10.6. I see your hand up, so I'm gonna speed this up. What we're gonna try and do to maintain the revenue is twofold. First off, of course, we're gonna try and entice new businesses to come here. What we're gonna do, and I've been working with Senator Connors and Congressman MacArthur, the key is the spent fuel casks. We feel that we can get money, host community funds for the spent fuel casks being stored on the Lacey Township Oyster Creek property. So that's number 1. Number 2, Chris Connors is working with the state government to ensure that we maintain that $11.2 million in energy tax.
Okay. Ms. Judson?
Thank you. Could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
How do you feel that how do you feel about the closing of the single biggest private employer in Lacey Township? How will it affect the members of the community in regards to employment and taxes, and what will you do to offset some of these issues?
Well, as I said before, we have not had any communication as to how it's going to affect our taxpayers. I do know it's going to affect a lot of the people that work at the Oyster Creek power plant because they belong in my union, and they are my coworkers. I started my career there. I did leave there and go outside to Jersey Central, but I started my career there. So it does affect many workers. It affects their lifestyle. It affects their jobs. They're going to have to find new jobs. This committee knew for 10 years that this plant was shutting down. They knew 20 years ago that the plant was shutting down. Yet they have not even attempted to bring in some other power resource, any type of replacement. They should have been looking into solar, into wind power, or even a larger gas plant. That there is no attempt being made there. Now they're scrambling. And as far as the 11.2 million, that's if the power plant is producing power. That's not going to stay in place. So what's going to happen next? We don't know. I'm not on the committee, but that's why I want to be on the committee, because I want to move this town forward. My grandfather helped build that plant, so I've been here a long time, and I don't want to see people suffer, and I want to see this town to continue to survive and to live and be beautiful the way it was and the way it should be. Thank you.
Mr. Dykoff, you have 1 minute of extra rebuttal time.
Yes, $11.2 million is guaranteed by state statute. In order to change that, you would have to change the statute for all municipalities. So it has nothing to do with the fact that the power plant produces or doesn't produce. It's by state statute. It's a law. Number two, we have been working towards, when I was on the committee working towards, we actually did a feasibility study to put a gas-fired plant there. And the problem was bringing the gas there. So there are many things that have been done to try and entice new developers to come into the plant. And they're continuing to being done. And actually, I know my running mate will discuss that a little bit more. But that's it. Thank you very much.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes, thank you. Over the last 2 or 3 years that I have been on the Township Committee, we have held numerous conference calls, meetings with potential companies to come in and take over that piece of property. People have to understand one thing. That is that's a private company now. Exelon's a private company, and they just sold it to another private company in which we have no say in it. Okay, we can ask all the questions, and if they want to answer them, that's fine. But one of the things, I was just out to visit Holtec, and I did speak with Dr. Singh, who owns Holtec. And one of the questions that I asked him at the last time I was there was, I asked him for his vision for that piece of property down there. And there were some other people in the room, and they were hemming and hawing and everything else like that. And then they finally said, we really don't want to tell you. And that's a good thing to me, because that means that they are talking about that piece of property, how they're going to redevelop that piece of property, and what they're going to do with that piece of property. So that's a good thing. They're just not ready yet to tell us, and they will tell us when they're ready. As far as the tax revenue is concerned, as the deputy mayor, I went into our CFO, and I said to her about, I want to say in February, when we found out the plant was closing a year, 14 months early, that we need to figure out the budget for 2019 based on the fact that we would only get $10.6 million. Like, in other words, the worst case scenario. We have been working on that since then. And we have the budget. We're just not ready to introduce it yet because it's still got to be finalized. And the other thing going on there is that what people haven't been talking about is Maximum Power is back there. And one of the things we were concerned about was getting a gas pipe back there. And guess what? New Jersey Natural Gas ran a pipe back there when they put Maximum Power in there, and it's big enough to hold a bigger power plant back there. Thank you.
Mr. Kanaki?
Thank you. Mr. McDonald says that the plant not being ready to tell us what they're going to do, to me, doesn't sound like a good idea. It doesn't sound like they're moving towards something if they're not even willing to share it with the township. I understand they're not obligated to, but I'd like to know what they have planned for that nuclear power plant. My running mate Sean works at JCP&L. She's a union electrician. She knows all about electricity and power plants and the effect that it's going to have on our township. I'd like to see green energy, if possible, go in there. I know my running mate mentioned solar or wind. I think that's the way of the future. I think that would be a good thing. The power plant is established, lines of electricity going out. It's plumbed ready to go for electricity production, and I think solar and wind would be a good option to look into. As far as the effect it's going to have on our town, I think that's to be determined. I think there's some discussion about how much that's going to affect our tax base. Ultimately, if I am elected, what I'd like to see is that we reinvest in our township. The power plant is no longer going to be there. We need to find new solutions. That means attracting new businesses, fixing our infrastructure, making our township a nice place that people want to live. If we build our town up and increase our property values, we will be able to make that tax revenue back, and we won't have to cut services. But we all understand that it's going to be a challenge, and I hope to work together with the people on the committee, if I'm elected, to come to find solutions, work with everybody. We're all on the same page here. We want Lacey Township to be successful, and we want it to be a good place for everybody. And I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to work with everybody to accomplish that goal. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald, you have 1 minute of rebuttal time.
Thank you. My opponent sits there and tells us that they should tell us what it is. They don't even know what they're going to put down there. They have ideas, but if they told us one idea and came back with a different idea, that wouldn't be good for them either. Got to understand, as we move forward in this process, in 2019, okay, we are doing everything we can to make sure that the tax rate is stable, that services aren't going to be cut, and we're going to move forward in that manner. The power plant is a huge opportunity. There's a huge opportunity down there for new businesses to come in there, and that's what Holtec is doing, is trying to attract new businesses. Thank you.
Mr. Kanaki, you have 1 minute of rebuttal time.
Thanks. Being left out of the discussion and not being told of what's being planned or discussed doesn't sound like it's a good plan to me. I'll let you all decide if you think the best course of action is just to trust that they're going to do what's best for our township. I don't trust what they're going to do is going to be in our township's best interest. I'd like to know what they have on the table, what they're considering, and I'd like to have some input into that. So I disagree with my Mr. McDonald that being left out of the conversation should be a sign of that we can expect good things to come, because I don't believe that's the case.
Thank you, guys. John Hamm will ask the second question.
Hello, I'm John Hamm. I'm a senior here at Lacey High. And my question for you tonight is, the Lacey, New Jersey Supreme Court has ruled on affordable housing many times in the past decade. How do you feel the implementation of these rulings on affordable housing will affect current Lacey residents and future residents in regards to infrastructure, schooling, and quality of life?
Well, affordable housing has been an issue since I first went on the committee, and we kind of kicked the can down the road for as long as we could. We had an affordable housing obligation, and the formula was crazy. We got to a point where I think we had an obligation of 500 units in Lacey Township. And what they were allowing you to do was they were allowing you to transfer your obligation to other municipalities by paying that municipality to take your obligation. And we kind of didn't do that either. But that was a kind of, not a very good way to get out of it. So unfortunately, it's a necessary evil, and it's imposed by the state of New Jersey. We can cry about it. We've done the best we could. I think the affordable housing projects, we have one in Toll Brothers, and we have the one Walters Homes behind Town Hall, are very nice projects. They were built very well. The residents are surely benefiting from it. The one thing I like about it was when they first opened up the Toll Brothers, the Walters Homes, it was first open to Lacey Township residents. Listen, when I first came down here, I came down here because it was affordable with my wife when we were first married. We wanted to start a family. This was the place we had to be. So I don't begrudge anyone who wants to start their life in Lacey Township. I don't agree with the formula. It's been changed numerous times, normally against the municipalities. We're going to continue to fight it. We want to do our fair share, but unfortunately, we control only a small amount of it. Thank you very much.
Ms. Judson?
Okay, Mr. Dykoff, I really have a problem with you saying it's a necessary evil. Affordable housing is not free housing. Affordable housing goes by your income. Okay, so they're not getting a free home, and it's not a Section 8. It's what you have to work, and you have to be able to afford to be able to live in that place. That's how the rental goes. In fact, I put the wire in for the affordable housing over there. So I don't like the discussion of it's a necessary evil. This is something that was passed. It's through all the towns and through all of New Jersey. People have to be able to have some place to live. You don't want to live living in a box, right? They have to have some place to live. So affordable housing is here. It's here to stay. I think that where they put the affordable homes was a very good place. And I think that it's going to continue. When we're on the committee, we can look at it. I don't know if you've seen the homes over there. They're very nice over by the municipal building. They're really beautiful apartments. So it's just something that we're going to have to work with and find different areas to put the homes in, so.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. basically, how do you feel the affordable housing will affect Lacey residents?
Well, we already have it in Lacey, and it's, the effect of it is it's been minimized. Look, affordable housing goes back to the Mount Holly Act, and been kicked around since over 40 or 50 years. More money has been set in lawsuits over that thing than ever before. But we have to have it. We are filling our obligations, and I think we're down to about 65 units left. And that's in round 2, and then we have to go into round 3, but that's not for another 4 or 5, maybe 6 years down the road. So we're working, we've done our due diligence since Mr. Dykoff left the committee, and we've been going forward. We're down to 65 units left. I think that's the number, but I know it's less than 100, okay? And then we have round 3 to get to, and we are addressing that now, but we don't have to do anything for another, I want to say 5 or 6 years. So we'll be able to absorb it, and then plan for it as we work forward and work on the master plan. And that's part of the affordable housing. We have to put the affordable housing into the master plan to make sure it goes forward. Thank you.
Mr. Kanaki?
Thank you. How much money somebody earns doesn't determine whether they're a good person or a good citizen. Affordable housing is just that, houses that average working people can afford. If you build your town where there's no affordable housing, it limits you to a certain demographic. I don't think it's bad for our town. I actually went and walked around the affordable housing this weekend, and I met probably 100 people that lived there. They were young people. They were, just nice, genuine people. They are good citizens. They, deserve a nice place to live just as like anybody else does. And I think making homes affordable is actually a good thing for our township. It opens the perspective that people that live here have. You have people in your high school that live in those homes. I'm sure you know them, and I'm sure you think they're good people. You're glad that they are here. It doesn't mean that they're criminals or people that are going to make our town worse. That's a scare tactic, I think, that some people tend to use to paint people in a certain light, and I don't feel that way. The discussion was that they had kicked this down the road as long as possible. If I'm elected to this committee, that's not going to be my mentality, to kick things down the road and delay things and put them off. I want to make decisions, and I want to move forward with our township. I think the affordable housing is a net benefit to our town. It opens up our town to people who can afford to live here, and all in all, I think it's a good thing.
Mr. Dykoff?
Yes, both of my opponents had made it a point to bring up certain comments I made, and let me just clarify. As I said, I welcome it because I want Lacey to be affordable, and the reason we kicked it down the road, so to speak, is because we couldn't afford it. It was an undue strain on the township services. You have to realize that affordable housing is part of a pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes. So basically what happens is the schools receive no money from those dwellings, but they do receive the students. And it's not that I don't want affordable housing in, but I want to do it to an acceptable degree that we can manage. Unfortunately, it does put undue stress on the township, and if we fulfilled the obligation that was put forth before us, it would be very, very difficult to maintain the services in the township. Thank you very much.
Ryan Price will ask the third question.
Good evening, candidates. My name is Ryan Price, and I'm a junior here at Lacey Township High School. The question I'll be asking you tonight is, as a member of the Lacey Township Town Council, would you work to change or improve current zoning laws and other requirements to ease the regulatory requirements on existing businesses to keep them in Lacey and increase Lacey's ability to attract new businesses?
Well, we have been working since I was on the committee on something that's called town center designation. And basically, it's the amount of building that can be done on a certain lot. And when it expired, we were limited to 30% impervious coverage. So basically, anything that the water couldn't go into. So now, if we get town center designation, we'll be able to develop 80%. And that will be a great boom. We're counting on that for the future development of Lacey Township, and that's what we've been doing. When I was on the Township Committee, we looked every year at the zoning book, and how can we ease the restrictions that are put forth by, unfortunately, the state of New Jersey, the DEP. Just look at Home Depot and Walmart and the other big box stores, even Walters Homes, the affordable housing. It took a lot of rezoning and a lot of work with the state of New Jersey to get them to allow those improvements. We're going through it now with Caffrey, same thing. Because of the zoning restrictions, we're limited on what we can allow developers to do. So yes, we've been doing it since I've been on the committee, and I know it's going on now and even further. The town center designation is in committee in the state of New Jersey, and we're just waiting for an answer. Thank you.
Ms. Judson?
Could you repeat the question, please?
The question was, would you work to change current zoning laws to ease the regulatory requirements on existing businesses to keep them in Lacey and increase Lacey's ability to attract new businesses?
The existing businesses, their zoning that's set. They're already there. So nothing's holding them, keeping them from making money to continue to do their business. I would like to work with the state and to move us forward in changing zoning laws to get new business in here. That's the important thing. We have little strip malls going up left and right, which, as you know, it doesn't always make the town look real pretty when you're driving through it. So there has to be some changes made, but we would have to work with the state, the DEP, and a number of other offices. But yes, I would work to change things.
Mr. McDonald?
Thank you. One of the most mentioned suits is Mr. Dallmeyer versus Lacey Township Board of Adjustment. That is a suit that was brought forward by a builder in town to build on 40 by 100 foot lots. It is quoted everywhere, okay? I sat on the Board of Adjustments for over 20 years. We worked tirelessly to change it, sent notes up to the Township Committee, to the Planning Board. This isn't working at our level. And we worked in conjunction with the Planning Board. But then again, you've got to remember is that the state really has the final say, the DEP. DOT is going to have a big say in this. And Mr. Dykoff is right. The town center is huge for us. If we can get that and we get the power plant property redeveloped in 10 to 20 years, the town's going to be in great shape. And that's what we have been working on continuously. We meet with developers almost on a monthly basis, people who want to come into this town and do business. And I do want to say one thing. My opponent mentioned in a video that we gave the box stores tax breaks. Absolutely false. No business in this town has ever gotten a tax break to come into this town. We have always believed you want to come in and do business, that's fine, but you're not going to do it on the back of the taxpayer. You're going to pay your full share. I do need to correct that. One building did get it. It was the assisted care facility on Route 9, way back when, and it was only for a limited time as long as the original owners owned it, and they sold it, I think, within 2 to 3 years. So that's the only tax break. So I continue to work. We will continue to draw businesses. That's the idea behind it. Thank you.
Mr. Kaneki?
This is an area where I actually do agree with Mr. Dykoff and Mr. McDonald. Redoing the zoning laws in our town, I think, will have a benefit. These zoning laws were made in a different era where there were more mom and pop type businesses, so they were zoned in a certain way. I'd absolutely, if elected, look into possibly changing some of those zoning requirements to allow more businesses and different kinds of businesses, different sized businesses. If you're limited by how much you can develop a certain area of the town, you're limiting what type of business can move in there. I would definitely be open to having discussions with people who have good ideas about if we can change this zoning ordinance to allow for this type of business, it'll be a net gain for the township. I'd be more than open to exploring those types of things. I absolutely think that Lacey Township needs to grow, it needs to evolve, it needs to kind of compete essentially with other townships at this point. Our economy in this country is sort of going to that, where states are competing with states for jobs, and townships are actually competing with other townships to attract businesses to them. You can see the development happening in areas like Brick or Toms River, and a lot of us go shop there or go out to eat in those areas. And essentially we're sending our tax or our money in our town to a different town. I'd like to change that. I'd like to make Lacey a place where we have nice things for people to bring business to our town, so neighboring towns want to come eat out in Lacey Township or want to support our local businesses, because I think that's how you grow a town. And if I were elected, that would be definitely something that I would want to look into.
Thank you. Michael Price will ask the final question.
Good evening, candidates. My name is Michael Price, and I'm a freshman at Lacey Township High School. On a note of the populace of Lacey Township and the future of our town, what can you do as a Lacey Township committee member to increase the amount of activities offered to teens and young adults in order to help them become more involved with the community?
Can you repeat the question, please?
What can you do as a Lacey Township committee member to increase the amount of activities offered to teens and young adults in order to help them become more involved in the community?
Well, I think it all starts with our recreation department, and we've got a great recreation director, Jim Weiland. The key is participation of programs and funding. Since I was on the committee, Mr. Weiland has expanded those activities quite a bit. We put as much money as possible into recreation and parks in this township. We've got some of the best parks in the county, if not the state of New Jersey. We've got to work with our schools together and pool our resources and come up with better and less expensive ways to keep our children busy and give them things to do. We will look at bringing businesses in that will possibly, be places that our youth can go to. Keep on investing in our sports teams. Cooperate with them. We've done, I know on my time in the committee, we worked tirelessly with them to allow them field time and make sure that our public works department takes care of the fields and make them as playable as possible. So those are some of the things that we would do. But it's a matter of looking at the recreation department and funding it properly. It's a tough thing to do, but we'll do the best we can.
Ms. Judson?
As I said before, I'm an elk, and I'm an advisor to the Antlers. So kids are very important to me. Young people are very important, and I enjoy working with them. I think that if we come in and work with the schools and get the kids involved in new things, maybe open up a place where I know how kids love video games anymore. I'd love to see a building opened up with video games for the kids to come in and play in there, and maybe have competitions and work together like that. Also, I get the kids to volunteer with special needs. We get them to volunteer with communities, with the community to help out people, which is very important because kids need to learn to give back. And I think the adults need to give back to the kids, and that way the kids will learn to give back to the community also. So working with the schools, working with parents also, is very important. And listening to the kids, because they always have good information and they want things. And you should listen to them and their suggestions and work with them. So that would be what I'd like to do.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes, thank you. I have been the liaison to the Recreation Department for the last 3 years since I first joined the committee. And I can tell you my first meeting with Mr. Weiland was basically this: I want you to expand the recreation. I will not say no, and I will sell it to the Township Committee. And we have moved forward. We've been aggressively moving forward. And about a year later, I said to Jim, Jim, look, we got the sports teams, and we got the musicians. What about the kids in between? What are we doing for that? And we're doing everything we can. I never say no to gym. Never. I've never said no to gym. Expand it, expand it. The Township Committee has backed it. They understand that. And they also understand that if we keep these kids active, we keep you guys active, you're less likely to get involved with drugs and those types of things. And that brings the crime rate down in Lacey. So you have to look at it from that standpoint, and that's why we push so hard. And yes, my committee members get tired of me talking about recreation, but I'm not going to give up on it because it's for you guys, it's for your little brothers and sisters that are coming through here. They're the future, and you guys are the future, but we want to keep you occupied so you don't do the things that you shouldn't be doing. Thank you.
Mr. Kanaki?
I think there's definitely room to improve the rec department. At a recent Democratic club meeting, Sean and I were discussing trying to put together something like a Fortnite tournament. We thought that my kids play Fortnite. I know most of the kids in high school and younger play Fortnite. We thought it'd be fun to crown like a Lacey Fortnite champion. So we were looking into, researching how we could coordinate that. My wife grew up here in Lacey, as I mentioned before, and she used to tell me all the time about how great rec was. They would take kids on trips to Six Flags. They'd go to basketball games at Georgetown. They'd go camping. They do all sorts of fun stuff like that. I haven't seen that recently or at all since I've lived in Lacey. So I think, definitely there's room that we can improve that. One of the ideas we had was revitalizing the lakes. The lakes used to be a place where people would come and hang out. I drove around there this summer and it was pretty desolate. There was maybe a handful of people there. And my understanding was 20 years ago, the lakes were a happening place. I think with some minor investment, some revitalization, the lakes could be a nice place where people would come hang out. You could have a movie night there. You could bring food trucks in. You could coordinate events through the township that would, again, make this a nice place for everybody to live. And that's really all my goal in running for this office is to make these types of improvements. We have a rail trail here in our town. It's one of the nicest things in our town. We need to connect the rail trail in all parts, so it's a uniform thing. We need to make a crossing across Lacey Road so it's safe for kids to ride their bikes and cross Lacey Road. I'd be nervous to let my kids ride the rail trail from start to finish because of the traffic and that type of thing. So I think with some minor investments in that, we can make our town much nicer, improve the rec department, improve the good things that already exist in this town with a little work.
Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the things, if you go on to the Lacey Rec Facebook, you'll see all the things that are available to be done, not only for the kids, but for adults and things. Adults, we have yoga classes and everything else like that. We are continuing to expand the recreation department. Yes, we still have the trips. I don't believe we do any of the camping, but we do trips like that. I push Jim all the time with that. The problem is, with a lot of this stuff, is it gets expensive. You want to run a trip down to Georgetown for a basketball game, you're probably looking at 75 to 80 bucks a head. It's going to be difficult to do those types of things. Thank you.
Mr. Kanaki?
I just think that there is room for improvement, and budgets aside, I think one of the other problems is just the way things get announced in the town. I think there needs to be a better way to inform people of camping trips. If there are things that are being sponsored by the rec department, the township residents need to know about them in order to be able to participate in them. And I don't see the best communication from the rec department to the township residents. I think there are definitely things that we can do through the website, through social media, that'll give people more information that they need to be able to take part in these things, because a lot of stuff happens and I think we don't even know about it.
Mr. Dykoff?
Since it's my last challenge, I figured I would use it. I go on Facebook, and basically the rec department announces all their trips on Facebook. It's also on our recycling calendar, the trips that we have. I actually signed up for a trip, unfortunately, a rafting trip. Unfortunately, it was canceled due to weather. Mr. Kanaki had mentioned the lakes. The lakes are unfortunately a sad part of Lacey. What had happened was years ago, basically it's the water runoff, it's the geese. We tried for years and years to maintain it. The DEP is a hindrance on that because They don't allow us to lower the lakes every year to kill the vegetation. The vegetation grows, and bacteria grows, and unfortunately, that's, makes it unswimmable. It's not an easy thing. Believe me, it's something we tried for years and years. I remember when we wanted to eradicate the geese, they came from all over the country to protest that, called us geese killers and
Mr. Dago.
things like that. But at any rate, so, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll be moving to closing statements. Mr. Dykoff, you're up first.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, it's pretty interesting as we talk. I watched the five of you and focused on them, and I see your heads nodding very often. So I guess hopefully we're giving you the answers that you wanted. And they were all very, very good questions, and I appreciate them. I kind of knew the first one would be about Oyster Creek and the affordable housing and everything else. I'm a positive person. I'm a how you can, not a why you can't person. I know we're facing difficult times with the closing of Oyster Creek, but I think Lacey Township is a great place to live. I believe the governing body is doing a great job and have done a great job. And I was thrilled with the members sitting there. I was thrilled that Tim McDonald, who took my place 3 years ago, took my place, and I was thrilled that Gary Quinn was running for re-election. And as I said before, the county's gain is our loss. I feel that my replacing him on the township committee will not be 100% for what we're losing because of his experience, but I believe my experience will be a great benefit. And I believe the future is bright for Lacey Township. I believe that we will get something developed on that property. And as far as Holtec not letting us know what's going on, listen, when you're negotiating a business, the person you're negotiating with doesn't tell you what's going on. It's a negotiating process. They don't even own the property yet. They won't take possession at least until next May 2019. But they're a business, and I've got experience with business, and they're in it to make money. Exelon was in the energy business. Basically, that was it. And they held on for as long as they can, and now they're gone. And I believe that between Holtec developing that property, the benefit of, believe it or not, the spent fuel casts, which I believe are safe, and the funding that we might be able to get there, I think the future is bright with Lacey Township. If we can get the town center and get some more development like we have now, we've got some good anchor stores, Home Depot, Kohl's, Walmart. I think more will be coming. We've come out of the recession. I believe the economy is doing very, very well, and I think that once it starts to really rebound, the development will follow. Again, I want to thank you all for having us here. It's a great venue, great forum for us to speak, and I look forward to maybe in the future seeing one of you up here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Judson, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. Excellent questions, gentlemen. I believe that each and every one of us have a duty to give back to the community that we live in. It's our duty to make our community the best community to live in. That being said, as I said before, I volunteer at the Elks. I always try to give back, try to do what's right for the people. And for the past 5 years, we've had a total Republican rule in here. For 10 years, they've known that this plant was closing. And now they're just talking about a town center. Plant's closed. Holtec does not have a good reputation in Camden. They have not been speaking well of them. So I don't particularly trust Holtec. They're not open about their business. So I want to be on this committee to go move this town forward. I want to be on this committee to work with the other gentlemen, because I'm not saying, giving them a bad rep. They're all good men. But I do want to be on this committee to work for the taxpayers, to make this community the best community it can be. And I want to be there to move it forward, to build new business, to bring more power resources in here, because that's what we need. And I do believe that we should go towards clean energy. That is our future. And I just hope that everybody here votes on November 6th. And they vote for me and Ted, of course. And thank you very much again for having us.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. I want to thank the Close-Up Club for inviting us here this evening. I thought it was great. I do like the new format. I think it's makes for more interaction between the candidates. Lacey's future is extremely bright. I firmly believe that. I believe that we've got a township committee that is working very, very hard for that future. We don't always agree on everything, but we hash it out and we move forward. The town center is the key to this. And let's be perfectly clear about this. It was denied once. We have been working, or the township committee has been working on this for over 15 years. This is how hard it is to get. It was denied once, and we've gone back at it for a second bite of the apple. We firmly believe that once Governor Murphy appoints people to the state planning board, which he hasn't done since he was inaugurated, that we will get the town center. With the town center and the redevelopment of Oyster Creek, this town will be in great shape for the next 60, 70 to 100 years. We firmly believe that. I've worked very, very hard. I think with Mr. Dykoff added to the committee, we will again continue down this path that we have to make sure that Lacey is a safe place to live. Lacey is a great place to live. The tax rate, we're working on that, as I said. The budget, we've got two budgets running at this time, one for 10.5 and the other one for 11.1. So whatever the state decides to do, we are prepared for it. We have worked very, very hard. And I hope, and on November 6th, it's a very important date. It's election. Get out and vote. Tell your parents, get your neighbors, your friends, get out and vote. Because it's the one time you can really have your voice heard. And don't think just because it's one vote, it doesn't count. It absolutely will count. And I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kanaki, your closing statement, please.
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I chose to move to Lacey Township. I chose to move here because of the people in Lacey Township and the wonderful things that are in this town. We have a situation where there's going to be a lot of tough decisions that are going to have to be made. We need to start now making those tough decisions, and we need strong leaders that'll stand up for our township and make decisions that are for the good of all of Lacey residents. My goal in running for office is I want to keep our property values up and our taxes low, and it's really that simple. I want to make decisions that are going to grow our town, make our town a better, more viable place for the future. I want to make decisions that benefit all Lacey residents. And if I'm elected, that's what I will do. Every decision I'll make is with that in mind, to make this town the best place it can be. I'm willing to work with whoever is on the committee. If it's Republicans or Democrats, it doesn't matter. Whoever has a good idea to me, I'm interested. I'll listen. I reach out to people. I think I have a lot of good ideas that'll make this township a better place. I think Sean has a lot of good experience and a lot of good ideas. She'd be a great leader for this town as well. So I hope you consider that when you go to vote on November 6th. We want to be a voice for the people. We want to bring new ideas into the township committee. It's been controlled by a single party for a while now, and there's some good decisions that they've made and some things that I would do differently. I think it's healthy to have different opinions and different points of view coming into a township. I think if Sean and I are elected, we would do a great job for this township, and I hope you'd consider us on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Close It Club, we thank you for attending tonight's debate. The event will be aired on Comcast Channel 21 up until the day of the election, and will be available on youtube.com/WLTS TV. For all the viewers at home, please remember to make your voice heard and vote on Tuesday, November 6th. Thank you, and have a safe ride home.